Good morning, Professional. We're coming to you on this Monday, on the 12th day of January, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. To get to the stories that matter today. Operations continue at the Binaliw landfill in Cebu City after a fatal collapse left 6 dead and dozens missing. Rescue teams are working around the clock to navigate the site as the toll from the tragedy threatens to rise. Malacanang officials and administration lawmakers have denounced rumors of an impeachment bid against the president as unfounded political strategy. Congressmen Zia Lonto Adyong and Paulo Ortega reiterated that such a serious legal proceeding requires clear proof and should never be reduced to political noise. And Senator Ping Lacson has identified 2.5 billion pesos in alleged allocables connected to Senator Amy Marcos. But Senator Marcos fired back by calling Lacson laughable and insisted the projects were non-funded wish lists pending DPWH approval. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. Search, rescue, and retrieval operations continue at the Binaliw landfill in Cebu City following a deadly collapse that has claimed 6 lives and left dozens missing. Here is a report.
This footage captures the exact moment a massive landfill collapsed in Barangay Binaliw, Cebu City on Thursday, January 8.
Patay sila!
A waste facility at the base of the landfill was buried in seconds. Employees inside had no chance to escape. Rescuers are seen in this video recovering the body of one of the victims from the landslide site. Authorities say the death toll has now climbed to 6. Among those lost is Rowena, whose husband Mang Ranido is left devastated by her death. He told News 5 that Rowena was still alive when rescuers first located her, but she was pinned down by debris, making rescue efforts extremely difficult. It took nearly a full day to retrieve her.
Sinabihan ko kasi ito, kanang matutulog kami. Kupi, in-celebrate wedding anniversary natin, 25 years. Mag-ipon ako. Pagkasalan kita ulit. Tatawa siya. Kung huwag kang tumawa, yan ang pangako ko sa iyo. Dahil mahal na mahal kita.
Rowena's brother Lloyd, who was also caught in the landslide, remains missing. According to his partner Evangeline, she is preparing herself for the possibility that her loved one may no longer be found alive.
Sobrang sakit po. Hindi ko alam kung kailan ako makaka-recover. Siguro makaka-recover din ako, pero pag yung anak ko pag nahanap sa tatay niya, sobrang sakit.
Search, rescue, and retrieval operations continue, with more than 30 people still missing.
4 people have died during the translation of Jesus Nazareno. Authorities initially reported 3 deaths among devotees, though details have not yet been released. Another fatality was reported involving a photojournalist who died of a heart attack while covering the event. According to the Philippine Red Cross, a total of 856 patients were assisted. The Quiapo Church is now studying possible changes to the translation system in 2027. The design of the endas or carriage will be further modified to prevent devotees from climbing onto it. Adjustments in the management and handling of participating devotees are also being studied.
We don't disregard the physical welfare of people. Yun eh. Alam ba, it's a very beautiful spiritual exercise. You are able to express your faith in God, your devotion to God. But mind you, God is also after the welfare of our body, our physical body. Gift din ng Panginoon yan.
A lawyer for former Congressman Zaldico says the seizure of vehicles linked to his client was illegal. Counsel Rui Rondain claimed police officers stopped and searched the vehicles without a warrant, forcibly taking their keys and detaining drivers for more than 12 hours. He said Cause Camp is considering filing criminal complaints against officials of the Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group. Authorities have maintained that the seizure was a legitimate law enforcement operation. Senator Ping Lacson says 2.5 billion pesos in so-called allocables were allegedly linked to Senator Amy Marcos. Lacson cited records he said showed the funds were later inserted into the 2025 General Appropriations Act, adding that some amounts were released. He also questioned Marcos's silence on alleged pork allocations during last year's bicameral budget deliberations. Marcos denied the claims, saying the items were merely wish lists submitted to the DPWH and classified as for later release, with no funds actually disbursed. She labeled Lacson as laughable. And coming right up, PHIVOLCS has issued a warning that the ongoing eruptive activity of Mayon volcano could persist for as long as 6 months. Authorities advise residents to prepare for a prolonged period of volcanic unrest and potential hazards. We'll talk more about this with PHIVOLCS Supervising Science Research Specialist Dr. Paul Alanis when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. An Army colonel relieved for withdrawing support for President Marcos has voluntarily submitted himself back to military control. That's according to his commander. Army Training Command Chief Michael Lohico said Colonel Odi Mongao is cooperating with an ongoing investigation after the Army removed him from his post over statements that have circulated online. He earlier claimed that the president had lost his moral ascendancy to serve as commander-in-chief. The military said it is looking into possible administrative and legal charges, while Malacanang assured the case will undergo due process. The Department of the Interior and Local Government said that 2 senior Bureau of Fire Protection officials are under investigation for alleged irregularities in the procurement of 30 million pesos worth of fire extinguishers for a condominium. Interior Secretary Ron Vicremulia noted that the officials were dismissed but did not reveal their identities. He added that the BFP has been involved in selling fire extinguishers at inflated prices, forcing business owners to hire specific contractors in exchange for commissions. Remulla also said that fire safety inspectors will now be required to wear body-worn cameras to monitor their activities. Speaking of fire and eruptive activity, PHIVOLCS warns that the eruptive activity of Mayon volcano could last up to 6 months. Here's the report.
Ala! Oh, Jesus! Dakulo na!
What appeared like a surge of thick smoke rolling down the slopes of Mayon volcano alarmed residents of Barangay Lidong in the town of Santo Domingo, Albay over the weekend. The area falls within the 7-kilometer extended danger zone from the volcano's crater, which means evacuation is not yet mandatory. Still, fear was evident among residents as they watched from a distance. PHIVOLCS clarified that what residents saw was not just a simple ash cloud.
Ito yung tinatawag nating pyroclastic density current or yung dito sa Bicol ang tawag nila uson. Made up yan ng mga yung mga mainit na bato, tipak-tipak na bato, may mga kasamang yung abo.
PHIVOLCS added that the uson should serve as a warning to evacuees not to return yet to the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone.
Ito yung mga actually sila yung nagko-cause ng mga casualties tuwing mayroong eruption ang Mayon volcano. Mainit po yan at yung mga yung mga volcanic gases, So napakainit po niyan. Minsan nasa halos 300 degrees Celsius, 600 degrees Celsius. At napakabilis. Kung nakita nyo naman yung video.
In Santo Domingo, preparations are already underway at this vacant lot, which could serve as a temporary evacuation site should Mayon be raised to alert level 4 or 5. This would mean the evacuation of around 79,000 residents living within the 7 to 8 kilometer extended danger zone. Residents from Barangay Lidong and San Isidro have begun working together to clear the area where tents and makeshift shelters may be set up.
Ang una po, sa school po muna sila i-evacuate ng 15 days. Habang po nandoon sa school, saka po sila gagawa ng mga shanties. In preparation po ito na ginagawa, nililinis po muna, saka kung halimbawa man magtaas ang level ng Mayon volcano.
Mayon volcano continues to show signs of activity, with PHIVOX confirming the presence of new magma rising into its crater. PHIVOX says Mayon's eruptive activity could last up to 6 months. Volcanologists are currently considering 3 possible scenarios. The first is similar to the 2020-2023 activity, where Mayon experienced quiet lava effusion.
Ang susunod na senaryo, yung maaring ano lang to, bumibuelo lang or parang ano pa lang introduction pa lang ito ng mas aktibong phase ng eruption ng Mayon volcano. Maaring mag-progress ito sa halimbawa ay yung 2018 style na eruption.
The third scenario, which is the worst case, would be a major explosive eruption like those in 2000 and 1814 that destroyed the Kagsawa Church. But according to PHIVOX, the chances of this happening remain low. For News 5, Gio Robles, we are One News.
For the latest on Mayon volcano, we have PHIVOX Supervising Science Research Specialist Dr. Paul Alanis. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Yes po, good morning and good morning sa mga viewers.
Okay, PHIVOX has observed increased seismic activity over at the Mayon volcano. Can you help us understand what kind of activity that is?
Yes, so yesterday po naglabas ng advisory ang PHIVOX na meron nga pong increasing seismic activity. We detected a low-level tremor. This is a continuous low-level, very low-energy earthquake underneath Mayon volcano. Unfortunately, the energy is increasing, kaya naglabas kami ng advisory. Now, these harmonic tremors are caused by, one is magma movement underneath, and this could also mean that this new magma is gas-rich and could lead to an explosive eruption.
And how frequent how frequent are those earthquakes becoming?
The earthquake itself is very low level, so it's just in the background. It's actually very difficult if you're not kung hindi ka bihasa sa seismology or sa earthquake monitoring. Halos hindi siya makikita. Pero yun nga po, na-detect namin and we see it in the background. And it's actually comes and goes. Repetitive po siya every few minutes.
Kumbaga hindi pa tapos ito kasi naglabas na ng lava yung Mayon volcano. So meron pa ulit. Do you think it's going to be just the same magnitude?
Yun nga po, kaya nga po siya naglalabas ngayon ng lava dahil merong magma. Ito, may magma na umaakyat. And so yung mga tira-tira na nandun sa taas noong 2023, itinutulak na ngayon itong panibagong magma sa ilalim. And yun na, nagkakaroon na ngayon ng lava flow. Now, with regards to how long how long this will last, we have we cannot say how long, but looking at yung previous na historical eruptions, like in 2023, this could last for a few months.
Okay. So, because you are, monitoring na meron pang magma movement sa loob, kaya po niya nasabi na 6 months.
Yes po, yes. So, hopefully naman po, kung titingnan natin yung interval between the last eruption and this year, so that's around halos 2 years lamang. We think na it's quite possible na hindi gaano nakapag-ipon ng both magma and energy yung Mayon volcano, and hopefully very short lang ito, or shorter, at least shorter kesa nung 2023.
Sa history po ng Mayon volcano, ano po ba yung gaps between the big eruptions and these smaller ones? The quiet lava effusion.
Yeah, on the average po, ang eruption ng Mayon volcano is between 10 and 5 years. But mga exceptions doon, for example po, noong 2000, nasundan after 1 year, may 2001 nakasunod. And ito na naman po no na nasundan na naman ng yung 2023 and now ngayong 2026.
Oo. So, ibig sabihin, there's a bigger potential that this might just be quiet lava effusion. A kind of eruption that would be just quiet at hindi po malaki.
It's possible po. Of course po, we cannot, hindi namin dinidiscount. Maaring, yun nga, patikim lang ito, yung sinabi ko kanina, baka introduction lamang ito. And it could lead to a more vigorous type of eruption kagaya ng 2018.
Okay. And given that this might last as long as 6 months, malamang hindi naman ho magiging malaking problema yung lahar flow. Is that a correct assessment, fair assessment?
Kung puro lava flow po ang ilalabas ng Moyon Volcano, wala mga hindi ganong maabo. Mababa yung chance na magkaroon ng mga lahars. But we have to bear in mind that Moyon Volcano erupts very frequently. And marami pa rin mga volcanic deposits na naiwan ng mga previous eruptions na hindi naman bumaba totally no mga previous na lahar events.
So pwede pa rin po siyang i-carry ng kung may rainy season po na abutan, yung mga naiwan na deposit ay maaring bumaba. And it would be harmful still kahit medyo matagal na ho itong elemento doon sa paligid ng bulkan?
Yes po. So pwede ma-remobilize yun. And makadagdag yung mga previous pa po. We're talking siguro mga like from the previous centuries pa na previous century na deposits. So pwedeng maghalo na po yun. And could lead to yung mga lahar events. So example po no 2020 yung Typhoon Rolly, and yung most recent no 2024 yung Typhoon Christine.
And what would be the biggest concern about these lahar flows? If hindi po siya galing mismo sa volcanic activity at deposits na lamang siya around the volcano at pag ito ay binaba, ano po yung magiging kapahamakan na maaaring maidulot nun?
Well, yung PHIVOLCS naman po has identified yung mga channels na quite prone. And we have hazard maps naman po. May mga recommendations din kami na sana na sundin. Like, we support yung proposal ng DENR na magkaroon ng easement sa pagtatayo ng mga residential buildings and commercial buildings away from yung mga river banks. So yun yung mga possible na pwedeng gawin natin to mitigate.
And for now, ano pong advice nyo sa mga residente around the Moyon Volcano? What should they watch out for? What hazards?
So, yung nga po, mula po na dineclare namin na alert level 3 ang paligid ng Moyon Volcano. We have already recommended po na yung 6 kilometer permanent danger zone ay ma-evacuate na po ng mga natitira nating kababayan. Now, there are some, may mga nagtatanong sa amin if yung 7 kilometer extended danger zone po ba, dapat nang mag-evacuate. Right now, wala naman po kaming nire-recommend beyond the 6 kilometer. But hindi naman namin ito pipigilin kung may mag-voluntary evacuate. But of course, yung 6 kilometer lamang po yung nire-recommend namin.
And to be able to bring that level from level 3 to level 4, ano po yung indicators po nun?
One indicator could be yung yung mga pyroclastic density currents. Kapag lumalagpas na po siya or umaabot na ng 6 kilometer radius, maaring itaas po namin yung alert level. Or kung magkakaroon ng mga lava fountaining and explosions. But right now, wala naman po.
What is the probability of bringing up the level to alert 4?
Up to now po, medyo ano pa.
Malayo pa.
Po. Right now, yung nakikita natin is mostly itong yung alert level 3 similar to 2023.
Okay, so in the next days, what should people expect to see? Madami pong nakikitang mga litrato dyan sa Mayon Volcano, beautiful photos, of course, but these bring a lot of danger. But what should we expect?
Well, we can expect po na tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung ganitong activity. Magkakaroon pa rin tayo ng mga... And right now, actually, dumadami pa rin yung itong mga rock falls at yung pyroclastic density currents. And now na mayroong lava flow na nga po na nag-umpisang dumaloy, pwedeng humaba yung mga pyroclastic density currents dahil doon na ngayon maring mag-collapse or mag-start dun sa lava flow and not just coming from the crater. So it's possible na right now yung mga pyroclastic density currents are umaabot lamang ng mga maximum 2 kilometers, pwedeng humaba pa yon, mag-increase.
It's good that you're getting everybody prepared for the amount of time that this may be affecting the region para makapaghanda po ang LGU po dyan. 6 months, the people will or might lose their livelihoods. It is something to prepare for. Maraming salamat for joining us to explain what's been happening over at the Bicol region. We have Dr. Paul Alanis from FIVOX. And coming right up, Malacanang has dismissed talk of a potential impeachment complaint against President Bongbong Marcos as mere political maneuvering and noise. We'll discuss this with political pundit Ronald Llamas when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here in One News. Good morning, impression on. Here in Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. An impeachment complaint against President Marcos could be filed as early as next month. That's according to Congressman Edgar Erice. Erice cited ongoing discussions among lawmakers, but Malacanang dismissed the claim as political maneuvering. Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong and Paulo Ortega said any impeachment move against the president must meet the Constitution's strict standards and be backed by clear evidence. Both stress that impeachment is a serious constitutional process, not political noise or a press release, and warned against it or against using it as a political tool. Talks on the refiling of impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte have also resurfaced. Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Redon said impeachment efforts should be driven by evidence and accountability. Antonio Tino of ACT Teachers Party List reiterated calls for accountability over alleged misuse of confidential funds. Joining us now, we have political pundit or the political star for all seasons, Ronald Llamas, to help us make sense of the latest impeachment talks. Magandang umaga sa'yo, Ronald.
Good morning, Gretchen. Nakakatakot naman yung production mo.
Sana magandang weekend mo sa iyong farm.
Oo. How was your farm?
Balik tayo sa laban. Pagdating ng Monday. Okay, let's get to it. What are you hearing about these impeachment rumors? Hindi naman bago yung sa Vice Presidente, pero ito kay Presidente Marcos, meron na rin finally nagsabi, nakapag-confirm that there is movement in the House. Representative Erice said tinawagan daw siya, tinanong if he would like to support this impeachment complaint against the president. Ano ang naririnig ni Ronald Llamas tungkol dito?
Well, for the first time, there is a distinct probability na may dalawang impeachment na ma-file. Isa sa Vice President at isa sa Presidente mismo. So, baka ngayon lang mangyari ito na sa isang taon ay may impeachment laban sa Presidente at saka sa Vice President. Whether ito ay mangyayari ay hindi pa natin sigurado. Pero halos tagal na magpapile ng impeachment dito sa Vice President. In-announce na yan ng Makabayan Black. Dito sa Presidente ay wala pa namang lumalantad na grupo or mga kongresista na nagsasabi na magpa-file sila ng impeachment. Although, sabi mo nga, ay in-announce na to ni Senior Minority Leader Congressman Elise.
Which do you think has more force behind it? I mean, 2026 na tayo ngayon, 2 taon na lang bago mag-2028. Sabi ng isang analyst na nakausap ko, effectively, 1 taon na lang ang meron ng Pangulo before everybody else turns their eyes to 2028. Given that the elections are in view, which impeachment complaint would have the better chance of making it through?
Well, dahil meron pang 2.5 years yung presidente, yung kanyang kapangyarihan ay malakas pa rin. Although nagbago na yung landscape since 2025 or February 2025. Nung nangyari yung impeachment sa Vice President noong February 2025, ay papunta tayo sa isang midterm elections. At saka that was practically 3.5 years away. Pero ngayon na 2026 na, kahit may mag-file ng impeachment complaint sa Vice President, ay yung hirap para ito ay mag-succeed ay mas tumaas kumpara last year. No? Dahil kalapit na ng 2028 at frontliner si Vice President Sara in all surveys for President. Ikalawa ay yung mga banat sa Presidente ay mas tumaas kesa doon sa mga banat sa Vice President dahil nga dito sa nangyaring massive public works scandal, no? At ikatlo, yung approval rating ng presidente ay mas mababa dramatically kesa sa Vice President. But then again, the power of the president ay malawak pa rin. Kaya ang tingin ko, yung probability ay mas naka-focus do sa Vice President. Although, yung chances na ito ay mag-succeed ay mas mahirap. Lalong-lalo na dahil dun sa new rules na ginawa ni Supreme Court Justice Marvick Leonen. Hindi pa tapos itong prosesong ito dahil wala pang sagot yung Supreme Court dun sa motion for reconsideration. Malaki ang probability na ito ang susundin ng Kongreso.
So, weighing the both of them, all these factors, no, malaking chance na ma-impeach ang presidente?
Hindi. Ang sinasabi ko nga ay hindi ganun kadali for both of them because of the new rules on impeachment na kinakailangan humarap yung akusado sa Kongreso. Dapat bawat isang kongresista ay alam yung dahilan for the impeachment, no? Tapos kinakailangan ay ito ay pag-usapang maigi, pagdebatihang maigi. Dati kasi bumoto lang ang 1/3 tapos na eh. So ngayon mas humaba yung proseso, no? At mas naging delicate yung proseso.
Ang sabi ni Congressman Erice, ang dahilan kung bakit gusto ipa-impeach si President Marcos ay dahil hinayaan niya itong kumbaga may murder sa budget, no? It can be considered a gross inexcusable negligence, which is one of the grounds for betrayal of public trust. That the defilement of the budget has happened under his administration, and maraming miyembro ng kanyang gabinete ang na-involve sa mga insertions, diversions, and amendments. Banggitin na natin ang ilan sa matataas na opisyales katulad ni E.S. Bersamin, nabanggit ang kanyang pangalan, DBM Secretary Amina Pangandaman, ang kanyang budget secretary. Do you think the grounds here are strong? Because when it comes to the Vice President, there are actual, kumbaga may mga resibo, yung Mary Grace Piatos, you can go to the COA, there are files, right? But when it comes to the President, how strong do you think could the grounds be?
Well, kung titignan mo yung dalawa, ay di ganun kalakas yung binabanggit ni Congressman Erice na possible basis ng impeachment ng presidente. Mas ang lumalabas, culpability. Mas ang lumalabas, command responsibility. Yung Vice President, sabi mo nga, Gretchen, mas konkreto. Dapat yung impeachment ay talagang konkreto. May smoking gun, kumbaga, no? Para ito ay umandar. Pero, then again, Gretchen, yung impeachment is also a political process. No? Hindi naman yan isang usual court of law. So, yung mga boboto dyan, boboto hindi lamang dahil sa legality.
Dahil sa ebidensya.
Dahil sa politika. Dahil sa politika. No? Kaya,
kahit sabihin nila na kailangan nila ng facts, and not necessarily, I mean, that they would really look at the facts, no, more than the political atmosphere around these facts.
Yes. Halimbawa, yung impeachment ni Era Estrada, no? Biglang nagbotohan na lang, tapos inaprubahan, tapos akyat na sa Senado. Hindi na napag-usapan yung detalye. So, makikita mo, it was clearly political as well as legal. No? Kaya, yun yung gusto kong ipaliwanag. Na yes, kinakailangan talaga ng konkretong ebidensya dahil ang ini-impeach mo ay hindi naman kung sino-sino. Ini-impeach mo ay presidente or vice president. Pero, inuulit ko, impeachment is also a political process.
Okay, it's one thing to get the votes to have the impeachment complaint go to the impeachment court. But do you see this? Do you see the two complaints reaching the impeachment court again? At ano kaya yung magiging itsura noon na dalawang impeachment complaint ang pinag-uusapan?
Well, una, hindi yan bawal na magkaroon ng dalawang impeachment in 1 year. Pero syempre, hindi practical na isa ba yun? So, merong mauuna. Mag-uunahan sila. No? Ikalawa ay mahirap. Mas mahirap sa Senado. Dahil mas malaki yung requirement sa Senado para magkaroon ng conviction. Sa Kongreso kasi 1/3 lang eh. Sa Senado ay 2/3 mahigit. No? Kaya yun yung problema. Kahit pumasa sa Kongreso na at this point ang tingin ko ay mahirap, ay pag-abot sa Senado lalo nang mas mahirap. At lahat yan ay nangyayari sa konteksto na palapit na yung election fever sa 2027 para sa 2028 elections.
Pero iba na magmamando ngayon, if ever, it would be Senate President Tito Soto, assuming that he is still in that position by the time that this is discussed.
Oh, alam mo naman, Gretchen, very delicate yung majority ni Senate President Tito Soto. Diba? Very thin yung majority niya. At ang obserbasyon ko, kahit sa majority, ay merong several na hindi boboto for impeachment, halimbawa sa Vice President. No? So, hindi ganun kadali. Inuulit ko, ang impeachment pagdating sa Senado. Tingin ko, Gretch, ang magiging focus halimbawa ng mga kalaban ni Vice President Sara Duterte ay yung kaso sa ombudsman. Kaya may plunder case doon. Yung mga ebidensya na posibleng lumabas sa isang impeachment sa Senado ay pwedeng lumabas sa ombudsman. Halimbawa, yung pagbukas ng bank accounts ng Vice President. Halimbawa, yung mga ebidensya tungkol dito sa confidential fund ng Vice President, etc. So, tingin ko dun mangyayari yung major battle against the Vice President rather than dito sa impeachment sa House at saka sa Senado. At doon mas madali. Kahit hindi matatanggal sa posisyon yung Vice President dito sa plunder case nito sa Ombudsman, yung mga ebidensya ay pwedeng lumabas at maladlad sa mamamayan. Kaya tingin ko doon ang focus nila.
At yun ang magiging alas ni President Marcos, the Office of the Ombudsman, which also is now very much in the lead when it comes to this corruption probe on infrastructure. Para po ba sa inyo itong ICI ay dead in the water na, wala nang hinaharap kahit hindi pa aminin ng Malacanang? What do you sense?
Tingin ko malabo na itong ICI, no? Dahil sa mga nangyari. Nag-iisa na lamang yung natitirang membro ng ICI, a quorum of one. Bagaman, sabi ng Malacanang, ay tuloy daw yung mga investigasyon. Ikalawa, ay yung powers nito ay hindi pa nadadagdagan. Dahil nga yung ICI-AC bill ni Congresswoman Laila de Lima na nilalagyan ng ngipin yung ICI ay hindi pa rin gumagalaw, no, sa Kongreso. Kaya, for all intents and purposes, ay magfo-fold up na itong ICI. Kahit itong umaamin officially na ito ay isasara. No? Kaya doon nakasalalay ngayon yan. Maaprubahan ba yung bill ng Kongreso? Strengthening the ICI. Hindi nga malinaw kung sino yung ipapalit doon sa dalawa na umalis. Kaya talagang in limbo yung ICI. Kung hindi madesisyonan yan soon, practically magiging moot and academic na yung existence ng ICI.
Para ho sa inyo, okay lang ho ba na iiwan na lang po itong investigasyon sa Office of the Ombudsman?
Ang tingin ko, malaki pa rin yung role ng isang independent investigative commission. Malaki pa rin yan. Kung talagang tunay na independence at tunay na merong kapangyarihan. Magko-complement siya sa gagawin ng ombudsman. No? Mahalaga rin, sino ba yung ilalagay mo? Pero tingin ko, kung may ganong klaseng possibility na very credible, yung mga malalagay dyan o yung papalit do sa mga umalis at magkakaroon siya ng ngipin, malaki yung tulong niya sa ombudsman kesa dun sa wala.
Pero sino ang dapat maupo dyan sa Independent People's Commission, which is what they call the group in the bill that was filed dito nga po sa House at sa Senate? Sino ang dapat maupo dyan?
Well, specifically, hindi ko naman mababanggit. Pero ang pwedeng panggalingan ng mga uupo dyan, of course, galing sa civil society. Galing sa civil society. Marami namang credible leaders yung civil society. Pwede rin manggaling doon sa legal community. No? Dahil nga mahalaga rin yung legal component nitong investigasyon na ito. Pwede rin may manggaling doon sa security sector na merong skills para sa investigasyon. So, maraming pwedeng panggalingan yung mga upo dito sa bagong ICI na tunay. No? Hindi problema yon. Mas ang problema, ano na ba yung ICI ngayon? Ano na ba yung ICI in the future? Yun yung mas mahalaga. Yung mga upo dyan, galing sa church and civil society, galing sa legal profession, ay marami.
Sa ngayon, ang sinasabi ng Malacanang, may constitutionality issues itong independent commission na ito. Kaya hindi pa natin nakikita na sinecertify as urgent yung bill na yon, even though na-direct na ng Presidente as an urgent bill. Hindi pa niya sinecertify as urgent officially. So, medyo nakatenga po yan. Pero pagdating sa Office of the Ombudsman, how would you assess his performance so far, and do you believe that he can really stand up against people that are close in his circles, katulad na lang ni Martin Romualdez na brad niya sa isang fraternity, and other figures? Kahapon, siya ay nanghamon kay Congressman Leviste over yung files na hawak-hawak niya, challenging him to come up with the congressional probe, revealing all of these DPWH files. Pero in the same breath, he also brought up issues with the franchise of the solar company of Leandro Leviste. So, anong basa po ninyo dito sa ating ombudsman?
Well, una, yung mga sinasabi niyang gagawin niya is yet to be seen. Dahil for now, yung mga binanggit niya ng mga targets last month, yung mga kasong pa-file officially, yung mga makukulong before Christmas, ay hindi nangyari. Ngayon, ang sabi niya, hindi na siya magbibigay ng mga specifics dito sa mga kasong ito. Pero, hindi ma-appease yung mga tao niyan, lalo silang magagalit. Kaya, kailangan niyang gawin as soon as possible yung mga premisa niya last December. Ngayon, this month, or at most next month, before the EDSA celebration, before the nationwide EDSA celebrations, or else ay sasabog sa mukha nila mismo sa ombudsman itong investigasyon na ito. So hindi siya pwedeng slow burn. Kailangan mangyari siya in the next 2 months. No? Yung mga big fish na sinasabi. Whether gagawin niya ito o hindi is yet to be seen. No? Ngayon, tungkol naman dito kay Leviste, ay mismo naman si Leviste nag-backpedal na. Sinabi niya na hindi naman necessarily yung nakalagay sa listahan ay tainted by anomalies. No? Sinasabi lang niya, ito yung listahan. Ang sabi ni Secretary Vince Dizon, hindi ito authenticated, hindi ito official. So hindi siya pwedeng gamitin, halimbawa sa mga opisyal na investigation or halimbawa sa court of law. Dahil hindi naman anybody can invent a list. No? Pero kailangan haraping maigi itong usapin ng listahan ni Leviste. Huwag lang siyang ipagpag, no? Huwag masyadong maging defensive, no? Pero mismo si Leviste ay nagba-backpedal na dito, no? Yung issue nung franchise ni Leviste tungkol sa kanyang solar company, ibang usapin 'yon. Ibang usapin. Kahit nung nangyayari 'yon, nung panahon ni President Digong, medyo na-amaze ako na naaprubahan ng ganung kabilis, no? Na wala yung mga usual requirements para sa pag-approve ng franchise. Kaya ang tingin ko, meron siyang ganung vulnerability. Pero siyempre, dahil nangyari ito sa konteksto ng paglabas niya ng listahan, ang tingin ng iba ay ito ay counter-offensive laban sa kanyang ginawa. No? Dito sa listahan na ito na parang kiniskis niya sa muka ng gobyerno.
But that statement and that background being dug up by the ombudsman himself, doesn't that taint this investigation with some sort of bias? Dahil naging defensive mismo yung ombudsman. Bakit hindi na lang niya hingin yung files and actually look into what the files say and try to corroborate it? After all, meron naman pong CCTV na nagkausap itong si Leandro at saka si DPWH Yusek Cabral. So doesn't that somehow confirm na meron ngang kumbaga paghihingi dun sa files at pwede siyang i-side by side? At bakit yung ombudsman pa ang nanguna sa pag-bring up ng solar franchise issue?
Of course, katulad nga ng sinabi ko, medyo defensive ang dating. Kahit may basis yung vulnerability ni Leviste doon sa kanyang franchise. Tingin ko maraming vulnerability yun, maraming butas. Pero dahil nangyari yun sa ganitong konteksto, ang dating ay may hint ng bias at saka ang dating ay defensive. No? Pero ang alam ko, yung listahan ni Leviste ay nasa ombudsman na. Yun, yung official yung official list ng mga Cabral files na binabandera ni Leviste, alam ko, officially ay nasa ombudsman niya. No? Kaya ang sinasabi na lang niya, i-submit mo sa amin para makita namin kung ito ay nagja-jibe dun sa aming official authenticated list na nanggaling sa DPWH. So, mukhang ganun yung attitude ng ombudsman. Pero, I'm sure hawak na nila yung list na ibigay na sa kanila ng DPWH.
Pero Ronald, bakit kaya pinipereso-pereso din ni Congressman Leviste ang pagre-release ng mga pangalan na ito? Bakit hindi na lang isang one go? I mean, he has the files, right?
Well, hindi ko second guess yung objective ni Congressman Leviste. Ang napanood ko lang, ang narinig ko lang ay paano siya nagba-backpedal. Na nung una, ang dating, parang ito ay list of corruption. Nung ikalawa, ang sinasabi na niya ay not necessarily. Dahil itong listahan na ito yung mga humingi ng insertions doon sa NEP. Di ba? Doon sa national budget. Mismo yung nanay niya nandun sa listahan. Ang sinasabi ngayon, itong list na ito ay pwedeng guide para tignan yung mga projects. Kung sila ba ay substandard or ghost. Or kung merong whistleblower, kung meron bang mga kickbacks na nakuha. Yun yung anomaly. The list itself is not anomalous. No? Ang anomalous ay kung maiimbestigahan nila na based dito sa listahan ito ay merong mga substandard, merong mga ghost at merong mga kickbacks na nakuha yung mga nag-insert.
Ronald, kanina nabanggit mo that there should be big fish arrested before the EDSA anniversary comes around. That's around February 25. Oo. So, maaari ba... maaari ba 22 to 25, maaari bang makita natin na ang mga progresibo ay maaaring magsanib puwersa dito sa one-time, big-time rally ni Chavit Singson na kanyang tinatawag? Do you see that coalition happening if there is indeed no big fish arrested by then? Anong maaaring mangyari?
Well, kung sakaling magkakaroon ng pagsasanib, ay hindi dahil kay Chavit Singson. Talagang may plano na magkaroon ng nationwide EDSA celebration. At ang nationwide na ito, of course, ang konteksto ay hindi lamang EDSA. Kala 40th anniversary yan eh. Ang konteksto rito ay yung massive flood control corruption scandal. Yun yung magiging bahagi nitong mensahe ng 40th EDSA celebration. At hindi ito dahil kay Chavit Singson. No, insignificant siya dito sa celebration na ito. Kung magsasanib lahat, malaki ang possibility. Pero at the minimum, ay magkakaroon niya ng coordination. Dahil 3 araw yan eh. 3-4 na araw. So, halimbawa, ang alam ko, yung simbahan ay meron ng plano na yung kanilang 86 parishes nationwide ay sasama dito sa celebration. Yung plano na magkaroon ng prosesyon from Quiapo Church to Santo Domingo to EDSA Shrine. First time mangyayari yan. Mahabang marcha yan. At of course, yung traditional rally dito sa EDSA. So, naiiba itong celebration na ito. Dahil 40th siya at nangyayari siya sa konteksto nitong massive corruption scandal na wala pang nahuhuli o nakukulong na big fish. No? Yun yung kaya kailangan habulin ng ombudsman at ng gobyerno diyan maigi itong mga investigasyon na ito at yung logical conclusion nitong mga investigasyon na may mga mahuli na big fish. Halimbawa, yung rekomendasyon ni Secretary Vince Dizon na 67 people na dapat kasuhan, kasama doon ang mga senador, kasama doon ang mga kongresista, kasama doon even cabinet secretary. So, at the very least, dapat aksyonan na yun. No? Initially.
Pero Ronald, ang EDSA 1 at EDSA 2, malinaw kasi yung kanyang pakayan. No? Nagkaroon ng palitan sa liderato. Dito naman sa pagtitipo na ito, ano ba yung goal? Because kahit doon mismo sa goal ay hindi nagkakasundo yung mga grupo. May iba gusto bumaba si Pangulo, may iba it's just a call against corruption. Doesn't that somehow weaken these protests and maaaring palampasin na lang? Ano kaya yung magiging pangil nitong corruption protest na ito? Kung sakasakaling tayo umabot doon at wala nga makulong na big fish.
Well, totoo yung sinabi mo, no? Pero as far as I know, itong mangyayaring nationwide celebration ng EDSA, no, ay nakafocus doon sa kasuhan at ikulong. Yun yung magiging main call. Ngayon, totoo yung sabi mo, may mga ibang grupo na mas gusto na lampasan yan. Napabagsakin yung gobyerno at saka magtayo ng bagong transition council. Pero tingin ko, para sa purposes nitong celebration na ito, ang focus pa rin ay kasuhan at ikulong itong mga big fish. No? Hindi pa rin lalabas within the constitutional framework. Tingin ko yun pa rin yung magiging main. At yan yung isang main component nitong celebration na ito ay yung Catholic Church. At hindi lalabas ng klaseng parameters. Kahit may mga ibang grupo na iba yung call.
Kasi syempre, Ronald, there's another factor here, no? Again, palapit na tayo ng 2028 at recently meron nga nag-withdraw ng kanyang support sa AFP. That's Colonel Odi Mongao. Is that an isolated case or are you hearing of more dissatisfaction within the military? Bakit kaya naglakas loob itong si Colonel na sabihin na he is withdrawing support from the president, that the president has no moral ascendancy? Ano kaya yung nagtulak sa kanya para lumakas ang kanyang loob with this public pronouncement?
Well, definitely may mga disgruntled elements sa armed forces. No? Maraming mga retired generals ang very critical, to say the least, sa presidente. Ang dami na lang statements na sinubmit at pinadala sa Malacanang. Pero tingin ko itong kay Mangao ay basically not only political, dahil sabi nga niya na wala na ng credibility ang presidente, pero also personal. Dahil ilang beses siya nag-ipas sa kanyang promotion. No? Kaya think for the purposes ng EDSA celebration, tingin ko yung sinasabi ng iba na withdrawal of support ay hindi mangyayari. Definitely. Pero at the same time, sabi mo nga, very crucial yung 2026. A lot of things will be defined dito sa 2026.
Halimbawa, impeachment.
Halimbawa, sabi mismo ni Senator Trillanes, kung walang kaso na ipa-file sa mga Duterte, then tapos na yung laban vis-a-vis sa mga Duterte. Which means na mahihirapan na silang kasuhan sa 2027 at saka 2028. At yung kanilang mataas na approval rating ay posibleng masustain nila. No? Pero kung may masampang mga kaso laban sa kanila, pwedeng ito ay magsimula ng gumuho o mag-unravel. Kaya mahalaga itong 2026. Mahalaga rin yung 2026 tungkol doon sa survival mismo ng gobyerno. Magkakaroon ba ng withdrawal of support? Magkakaroon ba ng uprising? No? Depende yan eh. Kung madideliver nila yung promisa nila na big fish. At madideliver nila yung mga reforms na pinromisa nila. Halimbawa dito sa mga priority bills. Reform of the system, anti-dynasty law, ICIAC, strengthening ng ICI, etc. Mahalaga rin na may gawin silang mga reforms na tatama sa sikmura ng mga tao. Crucial yung bakbakan, yung existential battle dito sa 2026. No? Lalo na between the two massive dynasties, the Marcoses and the Dutertes. Sabi ko nga sa isang interview, even 2028 will be decided in 2026.
Wow.
Kailangan may lumabas na ng mga alternative leaders at saka candidates. Sa ngayon kasi, nagsasabing kandidato siya for 2028 ay si Vice President Sara Duterte. Yung iba, ang iniisip, maaga pa masyado. No, maaga pa. Magpapasya na lang kami sa 2027. Tingin ko ay medyo mahirap yon dahil iba yung ating landscape ngayon. Naghahanap yung tao ng alternative ngayon. Hindi sa 2027, hindi sa 2028. Kaya, kailangan meron ng sumulpot na tatapat kay Vice President Sara. Kung wala, ay delikado yung labanan sa 2028. So, marami mga dahilan kung bakit very crucial and defining yung 2026. Especially yung usapin ng economy natin na mukhang dumadaus-dos pababa.
Mukhang marami tayong aabangan ngayong taon at maging makulay ang Year of the Horse. It is the Year of the Horse after all, a year of action and mobility, and we'll probably see a lot of Ronald Llamas out on the streets. Hindi pala. You don't do that. Oh. Okay, maraming salamat sa
Out in the
ating
farm.
political star for all seasons, our political pundit Ronald Llamas, for weighing in on the upcoming political events. That wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning and your week. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.